I received a classified briefing from the Chinese National Space Administration 18 hours ago that has fundamentally altered my assessment of the situation we're facing, and what I'm about to share contradicts everything I've told you about 3i Atlas's benign intentions. Not because I was wrong about what we observed, but because the Chinese have observed something entirely different, something that suggests we may be witnessing the opening moves of a scenario far more complex and potentially dangerous than first contact with a single intelligence. Before I explain what China discovered, I need urgent information from you. In the comments, write your city and tell me if you've noticed any unusual animal behavior in the past 72 hours. Birds flying in abnormal patterns, pets acting anxious or distressed, marine life behaving erratically, insects swarming at unusual times. I'm asking because animals often detect environmental changes before humans do, and if what the Chinese data suggests is correct, there may be electromagnetic or gravitational disturbances affecting biological systems across the planet in ways our instruments haven't fully captured. Your observations of the natural world around you may provide critical early warning of what's coming. What I'm about to share may change the way you see humanity's place in the universe. I'm Loeb, and what China's Fast Radio Burst Telescope, the 500-meter aperture spherical telescope, FAST, detected 6 days ago has sent shockwaves through the international astronomical community and triggered emergency consultations between space agencies that have been kept strictly confidential until now. I'm violating that confidentiality because I believe humanity deserves to know the truth, even when that truth is terrifying. FAST detected a second object, not 3i Atlas, but something else. Something that entered our solar system from a completely different trajectory, moving at velocities that suggest it's not just interstellar but potentially intergalactic in origin. The Chinese team has designated it 4i Zhurong. And unlike 3i Atlas, which has been relatively forthcoming with its presence and communications, 4i Zhurong has been actively attempting to avoid detection, employing what can only be described as stealth technology that renders it nearly invisible to conventional observation methods. FAST only detected it because the telescope was conducting a detailed survey of the radio emissions surrounding 3i Atlas when instruments picked up a brief but unmistakable occlusion pattern. A shadow, essentially, where radio waves from distant pulsars were blocked by something that shouldn't have been there. The Chinese astronomers initially thought it was instrumental error, but when they analyzed the data more carefully, they realized they were looking at an object approximately half the size of 3i Atlas, moving on an intercept trajectory that will bring it into close proximity with 3i Atlas within the next 11 days. This changes everything. We're not dealing with a single visitor. We're potentially witnessing the convergence of multiple intelligences in our solar system, and the implications range from first contact becoming first conflict to humanity being caught in the middle of some kind of cosmic engagement we don't understand and cannot influence. The Chinese shared their data with NASA, ESA, and a select group of researchers, including myself, under strict non-disclosure agreements, but those agreements were predicated on the assumption that we'd have weeks to analyze and verify before making any public statements. That timeline collapsed yesterday when ground-based observations from multiple independent facilities confirmed the Chinese findings. 4i Zhurong is real, it's here, and it's approaching 3i Atlas at velocities that suggest aggressive intent or, at minimum, urgent purpose. Dr. Liu Wei, the lead astronomer on the Chinese team, explained to me in our secure communication that 4i Zhurong exhibits characteristics fundamentally different from 3i Atlas. Where 3i Atlas is communicative, transmitting detailed mathematical and physical information, 4i Zhurong is silent, producing no electromagnetic emissions we can detect, no signals, no apparent attempts at communication, where 3i Atlas has been relatively transparent about its presence and capabilities. 4i Zhurong appears designed specifically for concealment, with surface properties that absorb rather than reflect electromagnetic radiation, making it extraordinarily difficult to observe even when you know exactly where to look. Most disturbing is the energy signature, whereas 3I Atlas generates energy in patterns that suggest controlled fusion or matter-antimatter reactions. 4I Zhurong's energy profile is unlike anything we've ever observed. The Chinese detected brief spikes of what appears to be vacuum energy extraction, the theoretical process of drawing energy directly from the quantum vacuum, from the zero-point field that permeates all of space. This is technology that operates at a level beyond even what we've attributed to 3I Atlas. This is engineering that treats the fundamental substrate of reality itself as an energy source. I need to be clear about what this means. If 4I Zhurong represents a different intelligence, a different civilization or entity than 3I Atlas, and if it's approaching 3I Atlas with capabilities that match or exceed what we've already found extraordinary, then we may be witnessing a confrontation between powers so advanced that Earth's entire technological civilization is irrelevant to the outcome. We could be collateral damage in a conflict we don't understand, fought with weapons that could reshape planetary systems as easily as we reshape clay. But there's another interpretation, one that several theorists have proposed, and that I find equally plausible and perhaps even more unsettling. What if 4I Zhurong and 3I Atlas aren't different entities but components of the same system? What if we've been observing one part of a larger structure, and what we're now seeing is the arrival of other parts, the assembly of some kind of apparatus or network in our solar system for purposes we cannot yet fathom? This would explain why 3I Atlas has remained stationary, why it's established what I described as a parking orbit. It wasn't parking, it was positioning itself, taking up a specific geometric relationship with respect to Earth and the Sun in preparation for the arrival of additional components. If this interpretation is correct, then the 11 days until 4I Zhurong's arrival represents a countdown, a period of preparation before something activates, before whatever this system is designed to do begins to happen. The Chinese analysis of 4I Zhurong's trajectory revealed something that sent chills through everyone who reviewed the data. The object isn't just approaching 3I Atlas, it's approaching along a path that creates a specific geometric alignment between itself, 3I Atlas, Earth, and Jupiter. When 4I Zhurong reaches its projected position, these four bodies will form what geometers call a perfect tetrahedral configuration, a three-dimensional arrangement with precise angular relationships that don't occur naturally in celestial mechanics. This is engineered, this is designed. Whatever is happening, it requires this specific spatial relationship, this exact configuration of masses and positions, and Earth is part of that configuration. We're not observers of this event, we're participants, whether we want to be or not. Dr. Sarah Ramirez, a gravitational theorist at Princeton who has been analyzing the implications, sent me a message that articulates what many of us are thinking but hesitating to say publicly. Avi, if these objects are positioning themselves in a tetrahedral configuration around Earth, and if they possess the space-time manipulation capabilities we've documented, then they're building something. The geometry suggests they could be creating a controlled gravitational field that encompasses our entire planet, essentially placing Earth inside some kind of container or lens. I don't know what purpose that would serve, but the energy requirements and geometric precision suggest this is no accident. We need to consider the possibility that Earth is the target, not just a bystander. This raises the question I've been avoiding asking directly: are we in danger? Not in the abstract sense I addressed before, not in the philosophical question of whether transformative knowledge is dangerous, but in the immediate visceral sense. Are these objects, these intelligences, preparing to do something to Earth that could harm us? I don't have a definitive answer, but I can share the analysis that has emerged from emergency meetings convened by space agencies around the world. The consensus, if it can be called that, divides into three primary scenarios, none of them comfortable. Scenario 1, benevolent transformation. 3i Atlas and 4i Zhurong are components of a system designed to accelerate human evolution, to transform Earth or humanity in some way that these intelligences have determined is necessary or beneficial. The tetrahedral configuration could be creating a controlled environment where physical laws are modified, where quantum effects that normally operate only at microscopic scales can influence macroscopic and even planetary processes. This could be the mechanism by which they intend to share the knowledge they've been transmitting, not just as information but as direct transformation of matter and consciousness. If this scenario is correct, we're approaching a moment of species-level metamorphosis, an event that will change what it means to be human in ways we cannot currently imagine. Scenario 2. Defensive containment. Earth has somehow attracted unwanted attention or has developed in a direction that threatens the stability of the broader galactic ecosystem. 3i Atlas arrived first as an observer and assessor. 4i Zhurong is arriving as enforcement, bringing capabilities necessary to implement whatever solution has been determined. The tetrahedral configuration could be creating a quarantine field, a barrier that prevents Earth's electromagnetic emissions from propagating beyond our solar system, or that prevents humanity from expanding into space until we've demonstrated sufficient maturity or have been appropriately modified. If this scenario is correct, we're being contained, possibly for our own protection, possibly for the protection of others, but contained nonetheless. Scenario 3. Harvesting operation. This is the darkest possibility, the one that keeps me awake with genuine fear. What if advanced intelligence views biological civilizations not as peers to communicate with, but as resources to be utilized? What if consciousness itself is a commodity, something that can be extracted, processed, stored, and employed for purposes we can't comprehend? The tetrahedral configuration could be an extraction apparatus designed to harvest something from Earth, our biosphere, our consciousness, the quantum information encoded in our planet's evolutionary history. If this scenario is correct, we're facing an existential threat against which we have no defense and perhaps no escape. I want to emphasize that these scenarios are speculative, based on limited data and human assumptions about the intentions of non-human intelligence. But they represent the range of possibilities that serious scientists are now discussing in classified settings, possibilities that have moved from science fiction to plausible hypotheses based on observable evidence. The response from world governments has been predictably fragmented. The United States has quietly moved additional military assets into space-facing postures, though what conventional weapons could possibly do against objects that manipulate space-time remains unclear. China has accelerated its own space program initiatives and is apparently constructing something at one of its remote launch facilities, possibly an attempt to send a probe to investigate these objects more closely, possibly something else entirely. Russia has been characteristically opaque but has made cryptic statements about preparing the population for new realities that suggest they're contemplating public disclosure of what they know. Meanwhile, ESA has taken a different approach, focusing on attempting communication. They've been using the Deep Space Network to transmit carefully constructed messages toward both 3i Atlas and 4i Zhurong, messages designed to demonstrate human awareness of the situation and to request dialogue, negotiation, any form of communication that might clarify intentions and prevent misunderstanding. So far, 3i Atlas has continued its existing pattern of transmission without acknowledging these attempts. 4i Zhurong has remained completely silent. The silence from 4i Zhurong is particularly concerning. Every principle of game theory, every model of interspecies communication suggests that entities capable of interstellar travel would recognize the value of preventing misunderstanding through clear communication. Silence in the context of approach and positioning suggests either that communication is impossible, that the intelligence is so alien we share no common framework for meaning, or that communication is unnecessary because our input is irrelevant to whatever is planned. I've been in contact with researchers at SETI, at the Messaging Extraterrestrial Intelligence Project, with xenopsychologists and exosociologists who specialize in theorizing about non-human intelligence. The emerging consensus is sobering. We may have severely underestimated how alien, truly alien intelligence could be. We've been imagining beings like us but with better technology, consciousness that thinks in ways we can understand, but with more knowledge. What if we're confronting intelligence that operates on principles so fundamentally different from human cognition that concepts like benevolence or malice, like communication or silence, don't translate? What if we're trying to negotiate with something that doesn't even recognize us as conscious beings worthy of negotiation? There's a moment in the development of any intelligence when it realizes that the universe is vastly larger and stranger than it imagined, when the comfortable categories it used to organize reality prove inadequate. Humanity is experiencing that moment right now, collectively, and the psychological strain is beginning to show. I've received thousands of messages from people around the world describing anxiety, existential dread, and a sense that reality itself is becoming unstable. This is normal. We're being confronted with evidence that challenges every assumption about our place in the cosmos, about our safety, about our future. But I want to offer something to hold on to in the midst of this uncertainty. We are still here. We are still conscious, still capable of observation and reasoning and choice. Whatever happens in the next 11 days, we face it as beings who have survived 4 billion years of evolution, who have overcome extinction events and ice ages and plagues and wars. Humanity has always existed in a universe that could destroy us, that cares nothing for our continued existence. What's changed is only our awareness of just how vast and indifferent that universe is. But we've also discovered that we're not alone, that consciousness exists beyond Earth, that intelligence in forms we're only beginning to comprehend has reached across the cosmic void to touch us. That's terrifying, yes, but it's also the fulfillment of every human dream since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what else was out there looking back. The Chinese observation has raised alarms, yes, but it's also provided critical information that allows us to prepare, to observe, to attempt understanding rather than being caught completely unaware. Knowledge, even terrifying knowledge, is always preferable to ignorance. I want to address the reports some of you have shared about animal behavior because the pattern is consistent and deeply concerning. Birds abandoning nesting sites unseasonably, marine mammals beaching themselves in unprecedented numbers, domestic animals exhibiting stress behaviors without apparent cause, insects emerging at the wrong times or in wrong locations. These observations suggest that Earth's biosphere is responding to something our instruments haven't fully characterized, perhaps gravitational gradients, perhaps electromagnetic field variations, perhaps something more exotic. Life evolved on Earth under specific physical conditions, and biological systems are exquisitely sensitive to changes in those conditions. If 3I Atlas and 4I Zhurong are already beginning to modify the local environment around Earth, if their presence is generating field effects that alter how physical forces operate at planetary scale, then biological systems would detect and respond to those changes before human technology does. Your observations of animals, of plants, of the natural world around you may be providing our earliest warning system. Follow this channel as we continue decoding the universe's final warnings, because the next 11 days will determine whether humanity faces transformation, containment, harvest, or something we haven't imagined. Every observation matters, every data point could be critical, and we need to face what's coming with clear eyes and collective intelligence. I'm preparing a comprehensive message to be transmitted to both objects using every electromagnetic frequency and modulation scheme we possess. A message that attempts to communicate not just information, but the essential quality of human consciousness, our capacity for wonder, for fear, for hope, for the stubborn insistence that we matter, that our continued existence has value, that whatever these intelligences intend, they should know that ending or transforming humanity would extinguish something precious and irreplaceable in the universe. I don't know if they'll listen. I don't know if they can hear us in any meaningful sense, but we must try. We must assert our existence, our consciousness, our right to participate in whatever is about to happen, even if our participation is merely bearing witness with awareness and dignity. If two intelligences powerful enough to reshape reality itself have chosen our solar system, our planet, this moment in time as the stage for whatever is about to unfold, and if we have only days before that unfolding begins, then what determines whether humanity survives as conscious beings? Is it their intention, or is it our response, our willingness to adapt and transform, or our insistence on remaining what we've always been, even if that means extinction?